This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsmen Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to The Great Outdoors. Have a fantastic show for you. A little bit of an interesting spin on things. We're going to be looking at the construction industry today. But before we dive into that with our special guest, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. You can join the MOA today at marianaoutdoors.com. 30% specials are running through the duration of the summer. So if you want to join, please go to marianaoutdoors.com. Again, marianaoutdoors.com. Switching over to Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. If you're looking to do an upland bird hunt this fall, whitetail deer hunt, or if you want to do a spring 2025 turkey hunt, go to 10mileco.org. Again, 10mileco.org, or you can give us a call at 724-579-0924. Again, that's 10mileco.org, or you can go to 724-579-0924 and give us a call. Be happy to talk to you about booking your next trip. And last but not least, Washington County Tourism Promotion Agency. Please visit Washington County, Pennsylvania today. I have a special guest today. I have Brian Bursick from the Hemlock Homes. He's one of the owners. Good morning, Brian.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
I want to dive right into it. So some of you know, for those that do not know, my home burned down last March of last year, and quite the hellacious experience that was, and it actually kind of forced my hand to learn more about the construction industries, home building. I really got to dive into seeing a lot of things when it comes to the economy, inflation, pricing, you kind of name it. I had to deal with it. But as part of that, I had the opportunity to meet Brian, and I thought everybody needed to kind of see that process. And if you're a home builder looking to build, this might be a good conversation for you to listen to. But Brian, can you tell us a little bit about Hemlock Homes, when it started, how it started, what you do, kind of the whole demographics of how you guys operate?
Sure. So Hemlock was formed in 2017. It was a group of my partner, Ryan and Steve, and then some other people. We actually formed the business at a restaurant in South Park, which is no longer open. We sat down and kind of just drew it out on a napkin and did all that kind of stuff. And, the nice thing about the way Hemlock runs is we all sit in different seats. So I'm more sales operations oriented. Steve's the remodeling side, hands-on, fix it kind of guy. And Ryan is, runs the new construction side. We really didn't know what direction we wanted to go in. It was, an awkward time of just trying to figure out how to start a business, which is extremely difficult. I come from a financial background. I did a lot of flips and real estate and stuff before I got involved in this. So, we ended up buying 2 lots in South Park, and we were like, okay, let's just see if we can do something here. I went and borrowed $1.2 million from a private person, and we built specs. Learned a lot that way. Realized that you have no brand, no name, no reputation in the South Hills that matters. When you're contending with Ryan Homes, Miranda Homes, these big businesses and builders, it's hard to break into that market. I branched out into a lot of, my relationships, and we started the custom side. Since then, we built over 70 houses custom. We built a lot in the remote areas of Scenery Hill, Fredericktown, Clarksburg. Our office is located now in North Strabane, but we've done a lot of work in Moon Township, Peters Township. We service a lot of the areas, basically an hour in a circle around our office. It's to where it is now. It's grown significantly, from a concept to an actual dream. And, just like any business, Jason, we talked about a little bit this morning. There's always things you got to fix, always, little gaps and holes along the way that you got to plug in a business. But yeah, whenever we first started, and clients would come in, I would be the last person they would talk to. And I always thought that was a disadvantage until I read through the meat and potatoes of it. And what they did was everybody told me from every builder that they went to what they didn't like. So then I started putting that together, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll just tailor that. And we do everything that the other builders really don't. We do all your permitting. We do all your front end work. We communicate with the townships for you. We do your taps. All that's included in the pricing. We do your sidewalks, your driveways, your landscaping, your appliances, all that stuff. And it's a full package. And that's what a lot of the built on your own lot builders don't do. And I've looked at business in the sense of like, well, what businesses blow up? Well, that's convenience. And how do we make this easier for the consumer? How do we allow them to do their day-to-day job while we build the home in the background and, hopefully stay out of everybody's way?
Well, so for those that do not know, North Strabane in Washington County. So if you do that 1 hour radius, you're talking probably parts of Allegheny, Westmoreland, Fayette, Greene, and obviously Washington, just to give people a little more of a geographical sense. When I dove into it and I started looking, some of the, how do I want to say this? The community style homes where they're doing developments, a lot of them were cookie cutter. You had to basically, every third or fourth house on the street had looked the same. And I did not want that personally. And I thought that was something not only unique of what you all do to tailor not only to where somebody, if you have a lot, it could be basically just a vacant lot anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a development or anything like this. But to have a unique build and for the convenience of that through the entire process, I thought was a huge relief. Also, just to be able to really not get stuck in some cookie cutter, scenario. I was granted the opportunity that, hey, if I wanted to, buy certain lights or buy certain fixtures and provide those to the builder, that we could do that. I thought that was very classy. I thought that was very unique, and it allowed the house to be what, obviously, if you're going to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I mean, building a house isn't cheap. Either way you look at it, you go into the production world, you're still spending money, because if you drive past a Ryan Home sign and it says starting at 400, that house ain't ending at 400. It's going to end in the fives, and you're still going to pick their options and their options only, and you're very limited to what you can and can't do. Now, I'm not here to talk bad about anybody. That's their business model, right? So, HOAs, convenience, landscaping, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's the people like that community feel. But then there's a lot of people that don't.
Well, and it's funny you say that about the pricing, because that was another thing I found when I was going through this whole process with some of the other builders is, when you see that sign along the highway or along a roadway and it says, starting at this, I mean, you're getting the bare bones, absolute minimum, bottom, whatever's the cheapest fixtures, whatever's the cheapest everything, that is what you're getting. You're not getting I remember I went to the one builder and I got a quote I was looking about potentially building a townhouse, and it started out at, the townhouse to build it at the time, it was actually like right around 200. But by the time we got into just adding additional outlets, it was something about a shower. I think we added shower heads, and I mean, just to add an outlet, it was $70 per outlet. And I'm like, how in the world? And you start nickel and diamond. The house ended up being $100,000 more. And I'm like, I'm not spending an extra $100,000 on a townhouse on a place that I really wasn't thrilled about being. So it's something that everybody should be conscious of or conscientious of, is whenever you see those signs, that's not the end all.
That's just marketing.
Yeah, that's just to kind of get you off the road, to get you to come look. But when you're looking about these things, I think it's important, Ryan. Brian, sorry, thinking of Ryan. There's Ryan, Brian, and who's number
Steve.
3? And Steve. Yeah, there's 3 of you. So they have the trifecta of how they're structured for those out there. So they have a pretty unique setup, and they got a good team. How would you say that the current market and of what it was in 2017, like when you started, when you talk about factors like fuel, inflation, what you guys have to buy, the different things that go into it, like what has there been a change, and if so, like has that impacted the buyer?
Significantly. Yeah. And we're still going through it. I come from a world of investing, so that's like my life. I own a lot of rental properties. I do a lot of investing in other ways. But, you know, what I kind of seen is in 17, we were selling it roughly $150 a square foot. Now you're starting at $250. So that's $100 more a square foot in the means of 7 years. And that's realistically 5 years, you know, because it changed during COVID. And, you know, people that bought during early in COVID got a great deal. But you had to go through the disasters of COVID delays, timelines being extremely long, or materials being eliminated and stuff like that. So you got a good deal, but you dealt with pure chaos. Now, you know, people are still doing that, but they're like, well, I think we'll just wait to see what the election does and yada, yada, yada. No matter what, people got to realize that building materials are going to go up 8 to 11% every year, no matter what. That's inflation. So, you know, if you're on the fence for building and thinking prices are going to go down, they won't. They're not going to. Interest rates will. Now, I tell people, like, yeah, interest rates have affected all of us. So what's really happened in the economy is it's logistics, it's plastic, it's those types of products. And the biggest factor is labor. Labor has absolutely skyrocketed in the construction industry since COVID. Because what it did was it showed the void of, well, we have a void. We don't have a lot of people getting into trades anymore. You know, we just seen on the news that Pittsburgh Technical Institute's closing down, stuff like that. Like, these are sad things. Like, you're going to an industry that's beginning to almost unravel because the limited supply of people actually doing it. And that's what's really affected the housing market in the sense of now Pennsylvania has the oldest demographic in the country. So when you look at interest rates and what they do is the people aren't selling their homes now. They're staying in them. So there's limited inventory. People moving are all circumstantial, but prices are only going to keep going up. So for builders, it's, you know, always been a great option and still a good option in the sense of I've built for some of my friends and, you know, they've moved in and refinanced and made 50 grand on appraisals and things after moving in. Now, whether you leverage that or you don't, that's your choice. But you know, when you're buying on the open market right now, you're paying top dollar. You have zero time to think about anything, and you're waiving inspections, you're waiving contingencies, you're doing all this stuff. In building, it's even since you've come in, Jason, we've switched our process on design. Now you have interior 3D walkthroughs, you have exterior 3D walkthroughs, you have more things in the design features now. Because again, you're always trying to improve upon your process. But yeah, I mean, it's not like the lumber was always the biggest one. Oh, lumber's insane. Lumber's pre-COVID. It's everything else. It's logistics. It's like, for instance, we ordered some cabinets for like little things for your house. It was like, I don't know, a couple small things might be $200. Your shipping's going to be $300. On top of that, that's where you're just like, what is going on here? Like, so it's things you don't really think about in the sense of, like you mentioned, fuel, travel costs, you know, that type of stuff. It's a multitude of things. It's very complicated.
Well, the shipping definitely has a connection with the fuel costs going up and up and up over the past how many years. There's no doubt about that. I've noticed even just the things I've purchased, it just going to like the different hardware stores,
Sure.
You know, the big box stores. Some of the prices on some of these things, to your point, like anything that seems to be derived from either petroleum or some types of your plastics or
it's unbelievable.
Anything like that. Yeah, astronomically unbelievable. The other thing is you brought up about the trades, and I think this is something that I don't know how to word this properly, but like politically or within our economy as a whole, that is something that is such a void.
Yeah,
it's like I can remember when I was in high school, it was almost looked down upon that the kids that went to vote tech.
It was even like that when I was.
They were like mocked or like they're not, like they're lesser. And I think that we're so behind because now look at this, where now you have to pay carpenters probably, I don't want to say more than what they're worth, but you're paying people above probably the market price if you had more people that knew how to do these different tasks.
Yeah, I mean, even when I got into construction, I've been in real estate since 2005. And, you know, if you were a top tier carpenter, and I mean top tier, $25 an hour. That's what it was. Now, if you're a top tier carpenter, $45 an hour. That's not even including adding up insurance and all the other stuff. So that $45 an hour guy is really costing you $52 an hour. And that means that person has to put out $1,000 of work a day to be profitable. That is a lot.
And what's crazy about that is that at the end, the consumers are paying that. And what's really crazy about those prices are, I've always looked at, when you want to look at prices, look at the state and federal index when you look at prevailing wage rates. So typically the private sector is less. But now, because of the demand for the workers, and because we've basically ignored this void, and now even schools like the Institute in Pittsburgh are closing. I mean, the trades are sadly just being gutted, and I think, not to tell you guys what to do, but I certainly think there's even a business opportunity there with connecting with schools and with the Votech, there's one in the Mon Valley, and I know there's one in Fayette to try to maybe plant the seed or see some kids that could groom into that future workers.
The hard part about that, and I've tapped into that market. So the hard part about that is they're groomed for the union. Now, I'm not here to say what unions are, what unions aren't. Now, my family's all in the trades. My family's all in construction. My father's a landscaper. We're all in the manual labor industries. We're all in the service industries. The union's not what the union used to be. I mean, it's just not. It's about dues, and that's the problem when things become political and money and all the other stuff. It's not what it used to be to protect you. So yeah, I mean, I tell every young kid that I even know or see, like, if you want the gold rush right now is trades. Period. It's 100% trades, because now as builders, if you're an electrician, you're naming your price. If you're a plumber, you're naming your price. If you're an HVAC guy, you're naming your price. Now, new construction's a little bit different because you have to be set up for new construction. You have to be fast and efficient to make it profitable, because builders, obviously, we all have budgets, we all have timelines, we all have this. But home remodeling, I mean, sky's the limit. I mean, guys are charging just unbelievable numbers nowadays.
Funny you say that about plumbers, because I had a plumber come out to one of my rental properties just to blow a line out, just to show up. It was $600.
100%.
Just to,
I want paid before I come.
Just to show up on the property. It was like, boom, it's going to be $600 for me to show up. We'll see what we get into from there.
Yeah, that's just your warm up price.
Yeah, it was kind of like, so for anybody out there that is interested in the trades, highly recommend you look into it, because I mean, I cannot tell you how many people that I know that were high up in, I'll just say very high up in the class of how they graduated, whether that was high school or even college, and people got on different courses. They were basically, to your point, kids are kind of groomed and told that this is what you should do. Even when it comes to, we'll say the trades, are told you have to go into a union or whatnot. You don't, kids. And that doesn't need to just be kids. Even if you're an adult and you're looking for a career change, there's a lot of different paths you can go down. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I was in the United Mine Workers of America. I totally understand and respect why they were established. I get it. Safety conditions, pay, hours of work.
Pension. It's always the big one. With
state and federal laws the way that they are, regulations, etc., a lot of those safety concerns have basically been regulated out. So that the need for that stuff to be in the wording of the union in its own capacity in the agreements really isn't necessary anymore in many regards. And then when you're talking about the wage rates, I mean, the unions can't even compete with the private sector, because you're seeing even private sector coal mines that are paying $5-6 more an hour. And what, at the end of the day, what are you getting in return? And that's, at the end of the day, with inflation being so high and fuel prices being so high and everything costing more, people would rather make more money so they have more money in their pocket or in their bank account so they can do the things that they need to do to put food on a table. So hence your point, if there's opportunity for kids to go and make $40-50 an hour, I mean,
it's I tell kids all the time, like, if you really, really are, if you're willing to put in the work and that's consistent work, you are going to make a great living. You're going to make an amazing living, and you're going to make an amazing living with not a lot of overhead, meaning college. Like, $200,000 in debt will kill you. It's going to kill you forever. I mean, my dad, who you've met and had a conversation with, like, my dad sat me down when I was younger and said, listen, son, you're like Van Wilder. If you want to go to college, then you got to pay for it. That's your decision. I'm not paying for it. It's not something I'm going to do for you. Now, that'll be your choice. And I made me sit down and think long and hard about it. So I didn't go to college. I went and worked for my dad. And I got an education with him for 13 years. And I worked for his business. And I watched how he grew. And I watched how he handled clients. And I watched how he maneuvered. And then he put me in charge of half the business. Yeah, it's a lot of work. But, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you're getting into something that over a period of time is going to in life skills. They're just life skills. Like, you need these things. Like, these are going to save you money in the long run, and one thing that's, to touch base upon, I think a lot of people are starting to see is insurance. Home insurance is now starting to eliminate people because of certain things. I just had a bunch of rounds on my rental properties of insurance coming back through. What's really starting to hurt a lot of the construction companies too is workman's comp and the just general liability of it. I mean, our insurance on workman's comp went up 14 grand this year, and we never even had one claim ever. So it's based off your revenue. Like, that's ridiculous.
I want to mention something too about insurance. I think this is extremely important, and I would tell this to anybody. And please, if you're listening or watching, this is extremely important. You should look at your insurance policy on your home and make sure that if you have to replace that house in today's market, will that policy cover it?
All of it.
All of it. So you need to, if you're gonna rebuild brick by brick or whatever it is, to your point, the square footage, you have to think, if you had a policy 7 years ago and it was at a number, and to your point, it's at 150 a square foot and now it's at 250, you really have to look at that and think about that. You really need to go back to your insurance policy and look at that, because I could tell you, I fell victim to that. Luckily, my policy covered the bulk of what I needed, and I filled the gap accordingly. But the point being, you need to make sure that if something were to happen to your home, or you're victim to some situation, incident, whether it's natural disaster or whatnot, but if you're going to rebuild your home, your policy needs to 100% cover rebuilding the home. I could tell you, to the point of what we're talking about here, inflation has jacked prices through the roof. And what your policy was 6-8 years ago is it's not
covering it.
You're going to be in a hole a good chunk. And I learned that, sadly the hard way, but I made it work and I did what I needed to do. But if my situation can help others, please open up your insurance policy, find out what it is. You can even call you can call a builder, call a bank, an appraiser, see what your appraisal value is on your home. That's going to give you a really good idea. To your point, know your square footage. Yeah. Take it, what'd you say, times 250 a square foot is a good rough way to kind of figure out a good build cost.
Yeah, it's, again, I mean, back to the insurance side of everything. I mean, we do a lot of, I'm doing a remodel now where their house caught on fire in the second floor, and, it was a battle going through that with them. I have a house in a small town, Stockdale. It's on the river. It had hail damage significantly about 18 months ago. And you got to be careful on who your insurance people are too, because there's a lot of people in our town who got left high and dry. There was a lot of people out there who are now suing their, insurance companies because they didn't get enough funding or whatnot. It's something that you don't think about until you need it, and when you need it, it's not there because they're going to easily be like, "Well, that's all you get. Here's your check. Sorry, see ya," and we're going to jack your rate up.
And another thing I would suggest from my experience, you want to make sure you have a replacement cost policy. Replacement cost policy is, whether it's your home, you need to be able to replace it verbatim as to what it's worth. It would be no different than the clothes off of our back. What will happen is some of these policies, they'll have depreciable value. Depreciable value, an insurance company could come out and say, well, we think the clothes on Brian's back are only worth 50%, so that's what we're going to give you. If that's what your policy says, you are stuck getting that number, and you're totally screwed, because then you can't go and replace your clothes at today's market price. And I can tell you, I've done, just with my stuff that I had to do an Excel spreadsheet for every item in my house. You want to talk about a nightmare. I was actually working on this last night because I'm trying to do the final piece.
That's your furniture, that's everything.
That's down to the spoons in your drawer. Right. That's
how many do you have?
I ended up with it was like 1,200 items. And for those who don't think about this, you should think about it. I would highly recommend taking pictures of your house, inside, outside, go room to room. Even you might not think about it, but if something more like this does happen, my house was basically completely burned. Some of the rooms were totally, there was nothing left. Some of the rooms I could still kind of see what was there. Like there was basically like kind of silhouettes of things. But yeah, I had to go back through and basically develop a list so we could replace everything. Quite an undertaking, number one. And then you have to go back and you have to look, okay, if I'm going to replace this in today's market. But that's why I cannot stress this enough. Whether it's building a home through somebody like Brian, or if you're looking to go replace your clothes or you're replacing your belongings, whatnot, you want to make sure you have a replacement cost policy, because to the point of, if you get stuck with some of these different companies that do not have good policies,
you're in deep trouble.
You're in deep.
It's also
trouble.
the same thing with yours too. Like, you got to think, some of these insurance companies are going to want you to tear that house down and use the existing foundation. That is another thing you need to check with your insurance, because again, you can't, like, it's just, you are in so much. You do not want to build off of a voided foundation, when it's been under duress like that and under a natural disaster of some sort or whatever. I mean, you have a voided product, so you're gonna, basically put something on top of it that you don't even know whether it's going to withstand or not. I mean, starting from the very beginning, like we did with yours, is the way that you really want to do it. So then when you have a home you can trust, have a home that you can feel safe in. Because again, I mean, I probably do 7 or 8 insurance jobs a year, and they're huge. Like, whether it's a remodel, remodel we're doing in Canonsburg is $214,000. I mean, you're basically building a house inside of a house. I've knocked down multiple houses that have caught on fire. And I've built a house for a person who built with a big production builder, and the house leaked and they developed mold, and their whole family got severely sick. These are things that cause PTSD. These are things that cause, like, like, you don't live the same. When you go through some of this stuff, like, it's an emotional thing, and you want to feel safe in your next home. You don't want to just be on pins and needles all the time.
That was another thing. So when my house caught on fire, and mind you, there's literally holes all through the roof everywhere from the fire company, not only from it burning, but also the fire company cutting holes. So all the ceiling, drywall, everything had come down. So when I did walk into the structure of my house, imagine everything's charred, everything's black, everything's burned, and then there's just a layer of wet drywall that's laying on the ground, and you're squishing and squashing as you're walking. So hot that rooms that didn't get any fire, actually, my washer and dryer melted in my one room. And my insurance was like, well, we'll see if it's salvageable. And they, out of the gate, had the intent that they were going to bring in, like, a cleaning company. And I'm like, well, how in the world are you going to clean this? I was like, there's no possible way. And they had full intent right out of the gate that was, well, we have to secure it. We got to do this. We have to do that. And mind you, like, every square inch of my house was black or melted or burned or wet, soggy. And then we get about a week of, like, it was a end of March, beginning of April, one of those just downpours, holes everywhere, dripping all through the house. So to your point, I'm sitting there saying, okay, now we're going to be dealing with mold. Now we're going to be dealing with this. Mm-hmm. So finally, after 2 weeks of kind of going back and forth, finally it was like, well, yeah, you're going to have to just go ahead and rebuild that is kind of how it's going to be. So for those that, for those that are even dealing with, partial rebuilds, or if you have any type of those situations, just make sure that I cannot stress this enough. You need to check your insurance policies because they need to be able to accommodate what you need to do.
I mean, that goes for any builder. I mean, even if you're looking to build or remodel, whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, just, my thing is every client for us? No. I mean, we try and, supply a turnkey business to somebody in need of, in building. It's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, but that doesn't mean, if you're going to look at builders, look at them all. Make sure you compare apples to apples of exactly what you're getting, because the building industry, it's more like, well, your price is $150,000 higher than the next guy. yeah, but there's a lot of bait and switch in new construction. That's the thing that people don't understand. Now, a lot of the other builders, they don't perform certain tasks. They don't provide stone. They don't provide piping on backfill. They don't do backfill. They give you an allowance for excavation. They don't do driveways. They don't do sidewalks. They don't do landscaping. If you think about that in the real sense of what that is, what are they doing? They're putting all the liability portion on you. Building a house is not that hard. Once you get it out of the ground, it's a rinse and repeat model. Now, when I move, when I expect to get a home done, it's done. And we talked about that this morning. Until that punch list is done, it ain't done. That's the way it goes. And, there's certain things that, there's a lot of gray area in the building of what exactly you're getting, making sure all that's, kind of apples to apples when you look at all builders. Every builder's kind of different. They all have a different model. They all have a different, mentality towards it. Some of the companies are more national. They're bigger. They're in different states. We're more hands-on in regards to that, and we try to be as a smaller builder. I mean, we only do 15, 20 houses a year, so we try, one of our core values is connection, and we try and keep that connection with a lot of our, clients even through the build. I mean, we have a lot of repeat people that we do stuff for, and that's what you want to kind of pride yourself on in the sense of, I tell people all the time, even our company, you're going to change these people's lives for the good or for the bad. There's really no in between in building. It either goes good or it goes bad. And that's the way, when it goes bad. And that's something you don't want to get yourself caught in. And, potentially that's the construction world. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at builders, just make sure you look at them all. We're all different and, pick the one that fits you.
Well, I want to switch gears real quick and I want to talk about the financial side of this because this is something that I never dealt with. So there's a big difference between a mortgage and a construction loan.
100%.
And so if somebody is going to come to you and they want to build a home, we could talk about this, but explain the difference between your standard mortgage and how a construction loan works and how basically the interest, just kind of go through that so people understand the difference of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a financial person of that level, so I mean, I'll touch on a macro level. So there's two types of loans in new construction. If you go to a Miranda or an NVR, they own their own insurance, they own their own title companies, they own their own mortgage companies. So you're going to do what's called an N loan. When you build with an N loan, you technically don't own that home until you close at the very end. So let's just say you're a problem client, things go awry, they can lock you out of the house. That's the difference. You don't own that home, the builder does, until the house is completely done, signed off, money's transferred and all that. With a construction loan, it's very different in the sense of you own the home from day one. Now, down payment to the builder, whatever that is, that comes off of your down payment towards your mortgage. A construction loan is interest-only payments as the loan is dispersed. Now, what we always tell everybody is the first two draws are typically the heaviest draws. So you're going to get majority of the money taken out on the first two because of the structural side, framing, windows, doors, foundations, trusses. It's all the expensive stuff of a build. So you're going to start paying from draw one, interest-only payments on money that is dispersed to the builder. Now, the nice part about it is you're always ahead as a consumer. You don't spend any money on the upfront until the foundation is done, inspected, you sign off on it. Then you go into framing. Again, inspected, signed off on by the client, disperse money. At the end, it then changes into a conventional mortgage, whether you go, refinance, or you can have a couple different options of doing it that route. That way it switches into a fixed mortgage at the end.
So yeah, so when I went into this, the whole construction side of it was new to me.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an educational, basically lesson. But yeah, just to reiterate what he said, you're not stuck with when you go and, for example, you go buy a home, you get your mortgage rate out, you put your down payment down, and then you get your fixed rate for whatever you're doing, 15, 30 years, whatever you're doing. In this capacity, basically what happens is the bank's holding the money, and then you're paying interest only for whatever term it is. Typically, it's till the home's completed.
Yeah, and banks have 12 months. So that's another thing to think about when you're in the financing world and a builder that you do pick. If that, let's just say a builder drags their feet or materials get crazy, which is not very typical anymore. But if you go over that 12 months, I mean, you're getting penalized big time by a bank. I mean, there's points, there's higher interest. I mean, it's set up for you not to enjoy that.
What's I forget, what is the standard draw like?
7 draws is very standard for a construction loan. So it's foundation, framing, rough-in, drywall, exterior, interior finish.
So if you're interested in building, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of even the financing side of it. And
I want to touch base upon this because this got us. I'm new to a lot of things too, and when we first started, banks give you, and builders typically want to do front-heavy draws, meaning they want to get 50% of their money at least in the first 2. Now, does that sound right? Not really. So what happens with that is it creates cash flow issues. This is when builders and construction companies get in trouble and they don't know how to manage cash flow. So when you take all your money on the upfront, and let's just say that build runs into trouble and it's 10 months later and you took all the money, how are you going to pay for it on the back end? So what I do now is we come up with our own custom draws that we turn into our banks. Our preferred lenders are Washington Financial and a couple other ones that we use. But yeah, I mean, they allow us the ability to make up our own draw structure that allows us to build on what makes sense for us. I want to spread our money and profit equally all the way across the build. So what we ran into at COVID is we were not only giving houses away, we were also $30,000-$40,000 up light on the back end. Well, now you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that's what happens to builders. That's what happens to construction companies. You're now taking from your next job to pay for the last job. And how long can you possibly do that? So I'm one of the only builders, and I've heard this from numerous banks, that wants more of their money on the back end. Because what I don't want to do is ever run into a situation where I can never complete a house. That is your ultimate nightmare. That is the worst thing that could ever happen to you, and that's how you go bankrupt, is not adequately managing your funds and taking too much money up front, making your bank account look great, and then a year later you have nothing.
Well, and we talked about this, you and I, like there's always the opportunity that a problem could arise, yes. Whether that's self-inflicted, whether that's completely accidental, whether that's a contractor error. For a builder out there, the builder wants to make it right, whatever they have to do. And if that means somebody, whether they have to eat costs or whatnot, those are the risk reward of, I would say, the construction industry. Because obviously if things do not happen, you're in the good. But if things do go awry, those can be risks for sure, to your point.
They're risks for both parties. It's a risk on the person who's, you're selling it to because they're not getting a product that they want. And then it's also a risk for you that you're going to get a bad brand, or you're going to get a bad name, or you're going to get, the way I always looked at everything is when I catch wind of certain things, it's always going to be fixed. I mean, I go back and fix things 4 or 5 years ago from remodeling projects or new construction projects, especially people early on. People early on that built with us and we had no brand, no name, no nothing. Like, you took a monster risk with us because nobody knew who we were. So I'll come back. I'm grateful for you forever. I'll come back and fix your stuff till I die. And that's the way the mentality of the construction game should be. This isn't just about money. Like, this is a legacy play. I mean, you're playing for the long game of what is right and what is wrong, because the sad part about construction, if you answer the phone, just answer the phone, you're probably 70% better than anybody in construction, because they just don't do it. It is an industry that I always tell everybody, like, my main goal in life is to bring some sort of integrity back to construction, because we're looked at worse than used car salesmen. Sorry, used car salesman, but it's everybody's on the defense with us because they have bad experiences with people. I mean, I've fixed bathrooms and I've fixed houses and I've done I built for people that were just extremely taken advantage of, especially in remodeling. I mean, that's a thing that happens all the time. I mean, imagine if you're in your 60s and you're looking to replace your bathroom and somebody steals 40 grand from you in your 60s that you saved for 10 years. Like, it's a thing that I've seen for so long, and it's a thing that we've always, I talked to you about this morning is punch on warranty. Those are my 2 biggest things. That's what we need to work on, and that's what we need to focus on. And a build should always, the quality should never be talked about. It's the experience is what should be talked about. And that's what I always try and drive home, and that's what you're always trying to perform for your clients, again, because it's a big deal. I mean, we're not a company that has 33,000 homes a year like NVR or DR Horton, who's in town now, and all these other gigantic companies. We are a small company in the construction space.
Well, I certainly appreciate everything you guys have done, and highly recommend Hemlock Homes. Anybody out there looking to do a new build, or even if you're looking to do a warranty
Remodel,
remodel,
we
anything.
do kitchens, bathrooms, basements primarily. New construction, we specialize on build on your lot. We offer turnkey service there in regards to that. We offer design for you as well. We have a design studio in North Strabane. You can come and pick all your finishes. We try and make it a one-stop shop for everybody.
How do people get in touch with you guys?
Office number is 412-444-5008. You'll talk with Taylor. Website is www.hemlockhomebuilding.com. Hemlock Homes on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the platforms. So we're on there.
Fantastic. Well, I thank you so much for coming on today. It's been nothing but a pleasure, and hopefully I can have you back on again because I'd like to talk. I'm interested to have some conversations about permitting and some other things that are connected to this whole thing.
No doubt. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to wrap it up today. I want to go through some upcoming events. I want to go through some things that are ongoing with the Mariana Outdoorsman Association, Wild Acres Farm, and obviously some other things going on in the county. For the MOA upcoming, we have the annual golf outing. It's a Cedarbrook Golf Course. Geez, totally misspoke there. That is Saturday, July the 13th. That's at 9 a.m. Cedarbrook Golf Course right off of 51. That is an amazing track. If you would like to register for that particular event, please go to marianaoutdoors.com, or you can give us a call at 724-579-0924. Again, that is the annual golf outing. That is a collaboration between the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and the Fayette County Farm Bureau. So if you want to benefit the good work of conservation and also agriculture, please come check us out. Saturday, July 13th, 9 a.m. at Cedarbrook Golf Course right off of 51. A few days before that, on Thursday, July 11th, there is going to be an agriculture, conservation, and energy happy hour. Anybody that supports any of those ideas, initiatives, etc., it's a free event. It'll be at Kodiak's Barn and Grill, located in Spears. It's down in the Mon Valley. Come check us out. It's a good networking opportunity for people. If you want to meet people, like I said, within those networks of society, we'd love to have you. Looking ahead to October. That'll be like the next big month of things ongoing. Tentatively, Saturday, October 5th will be the fall trout stocking. We'll get things ramped up again. And then Saturday, October the 19th, that is our big gun and cash bash. That is a collaboration with the U.S. Oil and Gas Alliance and the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. That is going to be an amazing event. One last thing. Join the MOA today. Need not fear. Join the MOA today. MarianaOutdoors.com. Get that 30% discount. Or, as always, give us a call, 724-579-0924. Follow us on our podcast. Follow us on Anchor Radio, Spotify, and check us out on YouTube. Again, this is Jason White. This has been The Great Outdoors. Thanks again, Brian, and God bless everyone. Have a great week.